guys, so today's video is a tag video, and I haven't done a tag in a really long time, but I've seen a couple that are going around and I've decided to do a couple of them and because they're fun. And so the one I'm doing today is my 50 random facts about me tag, and this is actually kind of hard. You'd think, oh, 50 facts, that's easy. But I actually took probably a couple hours going, stopping and doing stuff and writing stuff down to actually get them. So I have my notes here, and let's just get into it. My middle name is Sue. It was named after the two oldest girls on Little House on the Prairie. Melissa Sue, I can't remember. It's the blonde and then the second kid, Half Pint. It was a big show in the 70s and 80s, and so my mom was in love with it, and she named me after them. I was born in Plano, Texas, but I only lived there for about 8 months. I was actually, my parents lived here in California and then moved out there for a little while. I was born, and then after I was about 8 months old, we moved back to California, where I was raised. Like I said, I grew up in Southern California in a beach community, and I've pretty much lived here my entire life other than college. I have one half sister, and she lives in Oklahoma. Hi, Leanne. She's actually older than me by 5 years, and I love her a lot. You could actually see the ocean from my high school. It was kind of cool. There were some buildings in the way, but my high school was literally like 3 or 4 blocks from the ocean, so on half days, or if we were playing hooky, don't play hooky, we would go down to the beach. My mom died when I was 7 years old. She actually had epilepsy, and she had a seizure in the bathroom, in the bathtub, and drowned. So that was a little difficult growing up without a mom. My favorite colors, can you guess what one of them is? It's definitely blue. I think blue is a great color. It just is bright. It reminds me of the ocean, which is calming to me. And then another favorite color is pink. I'm very girly, and it's something that I actually, when I was younger, I didn't want to admit because I was actually kind of a tomboy, but I always liked pink and just don't want other people to know about it. But since I've gotten older, I've gotten over it, so. I love wearing gray. When I have like my work clothes and stuff, I prefer to wear gray. Like if I'm dressing up, I think it's nicer than white or black. It kind of, to me, is that perfect mix of both. I don't know, I just think gray is a great color, especially if you're going to wear pink. I think they complement each other really, really well. I actually learned to read when I was 4 years old. And I begged my parents. They didn't think I was ready. They were going to wait till I was 5, almost 6, and but I loved reading so much. I would literally sit there, they'd be reading their magazines or books, and I'd be sitting there and I'd grab one of my books and make up stories to the pictures. And so my mom finally decided, after much pestering, that she would try and see if she could teach me to read at an earlier age. And I learned, and I've loved reading, so that's another thing. I've always loved reading. I have a bachelor's degree in history from Arizona State, and I also have a Master of Education from Concordia University down in Irvine, California. On that same note, my sister and I are on a little bit of a race to see who will get to their doctorate first. She actually got her bachelor's and her master's before me, but she's also 5 years older than me, so she had a head start. But now that she has kids, I might get to my doctorate before her. This one you probably know if you have follow me on Twitter or anything like that, and that is that I have a cat named Tigger, and he's actually 8 years old, and he was a stray that showed up at my work one day, and he adopted me, and I've had him ever since. The first YouTube video I ever watched, like beauty related, was actually by the YouTuber named Courtneylicious, and I actually was looking up how to curl my hair because, like I said earlier, my mom died when I was younger, so I didn't really have someone to show me how to do my makeup or my hair, and I really, 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 really wanted to know how to curl my hair like the right way. And I actually watched her video, and that led to other videos watching, and then I fell into the whole YouTube beauty community and then decided to make my own. Many of you already know this one, but I love to cook. I mean, love to cook. And I'm not a baker. Baking is very precise, but cooking you can fudge and you can take a recipe and add things your own way, because if you know what flavors go together, then you know what it's going to kind of taste like. So I love to cook. I have a cooking channel that I started. I'm trying to put up more videos on that one also. When I was little, I wanted to be a paleontologist. I had this crazy obsession with dinosaurs, and I think all little kids really do. Like, they're big, they're mysterious, they're not here anymore, and I used to get all the books, like science books I could get about about dinosaurs, and so I thought I was going to be a paleontologist when I was a little kid. I love Formula One racing, and if you don't know what that is, it is actually it's race cars, but they're in Europe. It's actually all over the world, and they finally have a US Grand Prix, but it is open-wheeled racing. They have, and it's just amazing. They can go crazy fast, and it's another thing that I've been watching since I was a lot younger, and one of my dreams is to actually get to go to a race. To go along with that, I have two favorite Formula One drivers, and the first one has retired, and that is Michael Schumacher. He is definitely one of the best drivers of all time, and of current drivers, my favorite driver would be Sebastian Vettel, and he has actually won the last three championships. Kind of the same thing. I grew up going to flat track motorcycle races, and that is on dirt. But instead of them having jumps and stuff, it's all flat, like on a horse track. And I started doing that before, I was 4 or 5 years old when I went to my first one. I love Mexican food, and I mean like love. I could literally eat it every single meal of every day. I am obsessed with it. I cook it all the time. I eat it all the time. I have friends that are like, oh, you want to go someplace? Or they go like, what did you have last night for dinner? I'll say, oh, I had this because we're going out to lunch or something. Oh, then I guess you don't want to go to so-and-so's Mexican restaurant. I'm like, heck yes, I do. I'm like crazy obsessed with Mexican food. Okay, so I'm actually allergic to cats, which is funny since I own a cat. But I have asthma, and then I just have allergies in general. But when like the environment outside is really bad, or I have to have my windows closed, does he actually kind of bother me. So most of the time he doesn't actually bother me, and I actually built up a tolerance to him. Thank goodness, because I can't imagine getting rid of that little fuzzy butt. I have chronic fatigue and immune dysfunction syndrome, and I will put a link on the bottom bar that explains a little more about it, but it is an autoimmune disease, and I actually was diagnosed with it about 11 years ago. I started having symptoms when I was in high school, and it took them a really long time to figure out what it was. If you guys are really actually super interested in it, I can do a whole video about my experience and what it's like for me on a day-to-day basis. Okay, we are halfway through. Number 26. I have a specific set of like plateware that I've been obsessed with since I was a little kid. I actually have a set of plateware that I'm really obsessed with and have been since I was a little kid, and it is called Fiestaware. You can actually find, it's still being made, you can find them at Macy's. I buy them constantly, and I actually have a whole bunch of new ones, but then I have some that were my great-great-grandma's from the 30s and 40s, and I just love them. They're great. They're bright colors. When I buy sets, like I have a set of plates, like 8 set of plates, but each set is a different color. Like I have a yellow, a purple, and when I put them out on the table, I like to mix and match them. Just like my platters are different colors. I have one really light blue one. I have a deep red one. My salt and pepper shakers, they're blue. So it's really cool because you can mix and match and make a very bright, beautiful table, just for an everyday. My pets when I was a little kid were hamsters, and I actually got my first hamster when I was 9, and his name was Snowball. And the first one I actually got because we were having a pet day at my school, and I didn't have pets because we lived in an apartment building and we weren't allowed to. And we actually convinced my landlord. First I had to convince my dad to let me have an animal, and we actually convinced my landlord to let me have one, and he said I could, and so for a couple years I had hamsters. I think I had hamsters up until junior high. I also had a Maltese dog. Her name was CB, or Cotton Ball. We called her CB. And she actually didn't live with us. She lived at my grandma's house, but my grandma lives just a couple miles away. And she was actually bought for my cousin who lived in Texas and was visiting, but for some reason she didn't take her with her. So when my grandparents would babysit me, which was like almost every day, it was my dog. I took care of her, and for several years, and then she actually was shipped back to Texas, which made me really sad. But she was a very sweet dog, and I loved her, and I think she was part bunny rabbit because she didn't jump, she bounced, and it's just one of those things, like, I can't explain it, but it was really, really cute. All three of my cars have been red. I can play several instruments, including flute, clarinet, trumpet, tenor saxophone, a little bit of piano, steel drums, and various percussion instruments. And going with that, I was a band nerd in high school, and I actually lettered in band and have a Letterman jacket. Some of my favorite authors are John Steinbeck, L.M. Montgomery, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Philippa Gregory. When I was in junior high and high school, I used to write poetry, and it was actually a way for me to deal with my emotions and get through what things I was trying to get through. I have always loved history. I mean, I told you when I was a little kid, I really loved paleontology, or dinosaurs, and that's kind of, that's history. But I was also that kid that would go into the history books section of the bookstore and would buy or beg my dad to buy me books that were recreations of, like, the Oregon Trail handbook and things like that, and I would actually read all the way through them and pretend like I was going to go on the Oregon Trail. And yeah, I've been a bit of a history geek my entire life. I love Pepsi. Not Coke, Pepsi. Coke is too sweet. Pepsi is that perfect blend. My eyes, they always look really blue, I think, on camera, but they're not totally blue. They're really dark blue on the outside, and then light blue. And in the center I have like hazel and green flecks in there, and brown flecks. And sometimes, my dad says it's when I'm mad, but I think it's other times too. Sometimes my eyes actually turn really... I go to the beach when I'm upset. I've done this for a really long time. There's just something about the ocean smell and the ocean waves just crashing that totally calm me down. When I lived in Arizona, when I was going to school and I would come home to visit, I'd roll down my window and I could just smell the salt air, and it would just completely relax me instantly. One of my biggest pet peeves are people who are really late, or even just late in general. To me, if you're on time, you're late. I'm always at least 5 to 10 minutes early. You can ask my friends. I'm hardly ever late. I hate being late. I hate when other people are late. If you're supposed to be there at a specific time, be there. One of my traditions is that I like to dance barefoot in the rain, and I just don't know, it's something I've done since I was a little kid, and I just think it's fun and free and uplifting and kind of goofy and silly. When I was a kid, my mom used to tell me that the rain actually told me stories, and because, sometimes when you're a kid, even just the rain, the loud rain, can scare you with the howling and stuff. And so my mom would tell me that it told me stories, and to this day, when it starts raining, I actually get very sleepy, and at night I have the best sleep when it's actually raining. I would describe myself as a homebody that likes to go out. Now, I know those are contradictory, but most of the time I actually do like to just stay home and hang out with my friends and everything. But every once in a while, probably a couple times a month, I need to go out and be at a club or, like, at a bar, just hanging out with, kind of doing the same thing as I would be doing at home, but being out and being sociable. I randomly start dancing or singing. I make up songs to my life all the time. Anybody else do that? I've actually been in 5 musicals. Then they've all been with the same group. It's a community theater group, and I don't know, I think musicals are fun. I like doing all the dancing part. One thing I really wish I could do is draw or paint, and I just don't have the talent or the patience, really, I guess is more like it, because I know that if I actually sat down and learned and really tried, I probably could learn to draw or paint, but I just don't have the patience for it. I always sleep with a blanket, even when I'm sweating. It could be 100 degrees in my room and I would still have a blanket on me. It may only be on like my midsection, but there's something about the weight of the blanket that makes it, makes me sleep better. I cannot sleep with a really light blanket. It has to be a specific weight or I can't sleep at all. When I'm preparing an adult beverage, if you do not hear the words oops come out of my mouth, it is not a good drink. I'm 5'1". I know, I'm really, really short. I actually like cartoon frogs. I've been collecting them since I was in middle school, and it all started with the Hello Kitty character Keroppi, and I've loved them ever since, and I have tons of them around my room. I am a hopeless romantic. I want to be swept off my feet, roses, candy sent to me, all that kind of thing. So if you're a guy out there and you're a hopeless romantic, I'm your girl. And number 50 is my personal motto, is that the glass is neither half empty nor half full. It is always full. Just because it is not full of liquid doesn't mean that there isn't something there, just because you can't see it, unless it's in a vacuum. So those are my 50 random facts about me. I'd love to know some random facts about you in the comments below, or I'd love to see your 50 random facts video as a video response. I'll see you guys in the next video.